In this video, I'm going to be talking about why fasting is one of the most reliable, most effective, and cheapest ways to heal the human body, and also why food or diet is the #1 cause of most illnesses in modern society. So the main thing to keep in mind is that digestion is one of the hardest things that the body has to go through on a daily basis. So even generally speaking, in terms of overall functionality of your body's systems, giving your body a break from digestion, especially on a long-term scale, boosts the functionality of your other bodily systems that are in charge of healing the body and getting rid of toxins. Another thing to keep in mind is that 70% of your body's immune cells are in your gut, and your immune system starts in your gut. So I say there's two main things to keep in mind when thinking about health and food. The quality of the food you're eating, which is obviously how healthy it is, and also how easy it is to digest, which is the most important thing with that. And then also the quantity of the food that you're eating, how much you're eating, and how many times a day you're eating that food. So knowing that digestion is one of the hardest things that your body has to go through, if you're constantly eating foods that are hard for your body to digest, your body will not be able to keep up with the food that it's digesting. For example, some meats take up to 3 days to fully digest. If you're eating meat multiple times a day, every day, that food will build up in your system and won't be able to digest fully. So if you give your body a big enough break from digesting food, eventually over time, your body will start to clear out all the excess food that's just been waiting to be digested, which will surprise a lot of people, will be up to a week's worth of food that is still in your body. There are systems in our body that have the specific purpose of repairing, healing, and protecting from damage that has happened, damage that is happening, and damage that will possibly happen in the future. But those systems are based out of the gut and based off of your immune system, which is in the gut. So if you have a very toxic gut that is constantly overworked with unhealthy food that's hard to digest, none of your healing systems will work properly. And fasting is the way to reset all of that, get it working how it's supposed to work, and then allow it to work the best that it can without any hindrances. All right, so I'm back. It's a new day. You know what I'm saying? You can see new clothes. But now I'm going to talk about the different types of fasting, what different types of fasting means, and the benefits of the different types of fasting. So generally speaking, there's two main types of fasting. There's intermittent fasting, and then there's long-term fasting. Intermittent fasting is basically fasting for shorter periods of time, but more often. And then long-term fasting is fasting for longer periods of time, but a lot less often. So the main value of the differences of these two comes from the cons of fasting, you could say. So fasting isn't necessarily easy on the body, especially when your body is used to having food in its system at all times. It's used to constantly digesting things. When your body is used to a certain state, whenever you force it to do the opposite, it will be uncomfortable. And so when the hunger starts kicking in, the irritability comes, you get hangry because of things like sugar withdrawals. It's not an easy thing to do. So this is where the value of the difference between intermittent fasting and long-term fasting comes in. Because with intermittent fasting, it allows you to stay more in a normal sense of what your body is used to doing. So with intermittent fasting, it's a little bit easier to control these factors that aren't necessarily desired because you're doing smaller amounts of work over a longer period of time versus doing bigger amounts of work over a shorter period of time. But also with long-term fasting, yes, there's these factors that aren't necessarily desired, like headaches that you can get from the detoxing process, fatigue, irritability, things like that. Yes, those things happen, but the efficiency and effectiveness of a long-term fast will always be more than an intermittent fast in a short-term time period. Now, over a few years, if you're doing an intermittent fast over a few year time period, that will obviously have more results than one long-term fast. So it really all just depends on your needs and wants in your lifestyle and your health and all of that. Me personally, I would suggest that everybody try a long-term fast at least once, just to see what type of waste is cleared out, and just to see what type of mental and physical changes that you go through after doing something like this that cleans out a lot of toxins and waste in the body. Because there is a noticeable difference in your mental functioning and physical functioning after doing a major detox. But I would also recommend that you incorporate some sort of intermittent fasting in your lifestyle, as intermittent fasting is a way to incorporate a detoxing process in your daily lifestyle. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the biological effects and some of the biological benefits of fasting. So, in a long-term fast, after a certain amount of time of fasting and the body cleaning itself out, clearing out certain, certain toxins and all of that stuff, the body enters a state called ketosis. And ketosis is a metabolic state of the body when your body doesn't have enough carbohydrates to burn off for energy. So instead it burns fat for energy instead of glucose that it gets from carbohydrates. And so when your body is working in a state of ketosis, it's almost working in an overdrive state and will be working more effectively and more efficiently. And this is because the body is cleared out of all waste and toxins, and also the body is cleared out of all leftover food in the body, and it's not having to worry about digestion. And so when your body is in ketosis, it's basically an overdrive healing state. And so there's an increased levels of energy, increased levels of weight loss, and also it massively treats chronic illnesses. And this is why the keto diet is so popular, because the whole purpose, or the intended purpose of the keto diet, is to trigger ketosis. But in my opinion, and in most people's opinion, that diet isn't the best way to trigger ketosis. Fasting is the best way to trigger ketosis. Now, of course, when doing a fast, health has to be your top priority. You have to realize that the body still does need nutrients to survive and sustain itself, sustain its energy levels, mood levels, all of that. So this is why a lot of people go on juice fasts, where they abstain from eating any solid foods, and the most they'll go is the juice of fruits, vegetables, things like that. And that's okay. And this goes back to the beginning of the quality and quantity of what you're eating, how easy it is to digest, and how much you're eating that food, how many times a day. So the main thing to just think about is the quality of your food in terms of how healthy it is and how easy it is to digest, and then the quantity of how much you're eating that and how many times a day you're eating that. All right, so now I'm going to give you guys kind of an example of what an intermittent fast looks like. So there's a blueprint for, if I gave you a blueprint for an intermittent fast, I would tell you. So you would wake up in the morning, the only thing that you would ingest until 12 p.m. is water or juice, preferably actual fruit and vegetable juice. Then you would, at some point after 12 p.m. or near it, you would eat breakfast, break fast. You would break the fast. And when you break a fast, you want to eat something that is very easy to digest, the most easily digestible food that you can. Fruits, vegetables, smoothies, leafy greens, something like that. Or even some nuts and grains, which a lot of nuts aren't that easy to digest, or aren't as easily digestible as your breakfast food should be. And then after that breakfast period, maybe around 2 to 5 p.m., that's when you have your dinner. That's when you have your full meal for the day. And yes, with this intermittent fasting, you will really only have one full meal a day, and that's okay. That's actually very healthy to the body. But you will have this full meal, and the reason why it's important to have this full meal earlier in the day is because it's a strain on your body to try to sleep and heal the body while sleeping, while digesting food. So by the time you go to sleep, you want all of your food to pretty much be digested, right? And so, okay, so your full meal will be somewhere around this time from 3 to 6, we'll say. And then, at nighttime, you can eat again. But just like breakfast, you want your food to be very easily digestible. Just like fasting, when you sleep, the body enters extended, more advanced states of healing. This is partly because when you sleep, you are fasting for at least a short amount of time. But also when you sleep, the body specifically enters states that have the purpose of healing deeper levels of the body. But like I've said, if your body is having to focus on digesting food, which is one of the hardest things the body has to go through, the body won't be able to properly enter these states of healing and won't be able to fully focus on healing all of the deeper parts of the body if it's having to process and intake nutrients, process the toxins that come with that food and all this stuff. Yeah, I feel like I've hit pretty much a general overview of fasting, what it is, pros and cons and stuff like that. There is a lot more information that has to do with fasting, so I would always recommend do your own research before you do something that affects your health and your livelihood, you know what I'm saying? But it's definitely something to look into more, and I will probably be posting more videos about this in the future, so stay tuned and comment down below if you want me to post more.